test. We're going to take the first couple forms from one of the long forms. We have block, chop, spear hand, right? For shits and giggles, let's switch that to a palm. We don't do uppercuts. We're going to switch that here. We can go point of origin, point of contact, point of origin, point of contact, point of origin, point of contact, and we're using these little high-yaw movements. We want to switch into orbital, elliptic, gaseous phase stuff. We want to start looking at circles. The circles, the orbits that I have one that goes this way around my body, I've got something that goes this way around my body, I've got something that goes transverse planes, I've got something that goes horizontal planes. Universal pattern surrounds me at all points. What I want to be able to do is step forward and have my body components switch from one orbit to the other. So I have an orbit that goes this way, I have an orbit that goes this way, I have an orbit that goes this way. I'm going to switch all three in one. So I've started in this orbit, I switch, now I'm on this orbit, and then I'm going to jump orbits again to this side. I don't want to just stop, freeze, frame, come back up, chop, boom, gotcha, right? So I'm going to use a smaller orbit that redirects right about here. So it's like that teardrop kind of thing. And bring that around into the palm heel. So I have one orbit, the other orbit, another orbit still, yet another. So instead of having point of stop, point of stop, point of stop, point of stop, it's one continuous movement. It's a series of concentric circles around my body. Same thing with the left hand. I bring the left hand into play. I can go hya, right? But what I have, if I want to start taking this in 5 swords, is it's going to do a slight circle. Ellipse 2, strike the target, come down through, past, do the thing where it checks in the bicep, and then rebound up. The rebound isn't, I came, I stopped, I chopped. The rebound is teardrop, just like the rest of the thing. It's switching orbits. I've got it now on kind of this tipped horizontal plane, and when it bounces off, it's going to bounce off into more of a upward rising, actually, but blend about 2 different orbits. Boom! And that is then going to come around, because remember, if you 5 swords, go hi-ya, chop, gotcha, and chop again. We're going to go hi-ya, gotcha, and this one we had back behind us before bringing it back forward. We're doing the same thing if we want to take it in 5 swords. So at no point am I stopping. I'm maintaining this circular fluid leaping from one orbit to the other, to the other, to the other, to the other. And in doing that, allowing myself to generate momentum and power from the torso and let the centripetal force ride from the center out. I bitch on these sites all the time about making sure the body's behind it. Why? We get this hi-ya, 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 no torso, hi-ya, hi-ya, still no torso, right? If I'm going into this one, a little bit of a tippy tip here takes the midline axis of my body and tips it just a little bit. That gives me an interesting reach of recovery. And when I come up that recovery line, it changes the angle of attack, changes the angle of penetration. It's also going to change the setup to bring this thing in and ground it down. Orbital switching. Remember, this thing did the same thing. Pump, and instead of going hi-ya, drop back, hi-ya, or hi-ya, drop back, hi-ya, I go palm, and I let it just sort of loop the wrist. I switch orbits again, teardrop, bring it back over the top, and come down this way. So rather than going, it becomes here. And in this movement, in these continual figure eights, orbits that are looping around our body, we generate the momentum and the mass necessary to take it where we want it to go. So rather than it being right? Teardrop, circle, circle. The palm heel takes a circle as well. The idea of, well, we don't chamber in Kenpo. You're right. I'm not going to go 1, 2. I'm going to go and let this either stay where it is and bring my body in front of it so that it becomes a cocked and loaded component of the directional harmony I'm generating by moving my torso into the attack, or I'm going to find point of origin in an orbit. I'm not doing this. I'm not coming back on one plane and striking in that same plane in reverse pathway. I'm finding it in the opposite orbit that just happens to be complementary to what I want to do with my weapon target. So I have my damn bad guys attacking me. Right? But I get my block, my chop, my palm heel, and that rear hand coming around and 5 swords and the same thing. It never stops. It's always circle is too small, constipated, people see Mr. Park do this. And I go, well, if he can do that, I can do that. No, you can't. You're not doing the same thing. It's got to be full body torque, torque, torque. The torso is moving. The torso, yeah, just the hips, shoulders, everything else follows. Hips, chest, torso, shoulders follow, everything else follows. Same thing with this. Right, that's not 5 swords. This. That's going to be that 5 swords. Some of these moves, what they have to do with power serve. When you think about spiking a softball, think about spiking a volleyball over a fence. You don't spike it on your point of contact, right? There's some reach. So you have some contraction, expansion, contraction. Think about pitching a fast underhand. You don't go, there's some reach and some contraction. The idea that we don't cock or chamber in Kenpo, true to a start. What we want to do is break bad habits, which is people doing this bit again. What we want to do is install new habits. One of the new habits would simply be finding the orbit. I see this claw at the ass end of thundering hammer. You can go, as opposed to, right? This will cause much more damage as a full-assed underhand softball pitch than going, nah. Same thing with overhand. Think about the overhand palm heel rate and trigger salute. If I go, as opposed to take some pat, get that volleyball serve going and knock the skull back off the spinal column, I'm going to have a lot better effect for knocking the crap out of them than I do if I go, So some of these moves have power strokes inserted in them on purpose. Biomechanically, the body will do more recruiting and more natural momentum. Whoosh. And this is an underhand that will, this isn't going to injure anyone. This has a much better chance of causing the guys some broken bones and discomfort. So power serves get worked into the techniques. Power serve here, power serve. What are you going to do? Bury a hatchet into a tree. If I hand you a hatchet, I say, bury this thing balls deep as hard as you can into that tree trunk. You're going to go, plane of origin, point of contact. It might cleave the bark, but I doubt it. However, if you do this thing where you step in, get this thing chambered back up by your just wham, you'll get a better chance of getting that to bury into the tree than if you just go downward strikes, downward rolls. Think of the downward hammer fists and thundering hammers. Does this? Can it injure anyone? No. This will. So yeah, we're violating point of origin, point of contact. We're doing it in exchange for finding power in the orbits of the circular body and switching the orbits in order to generate confluence from one move to the other, having moves come together so that they're not just this nice power moves, confluence circles, orbits, jumping orbits. This is one orbit, this is another orbit, this is another orbit. Think about those when you're working with techniques. It will take the mechanical out of it and replace it with some. But this should be one fluid movement. You don't strike to an opponent, you strike through. And if we talk about striking through an opponent, we have some adaptations we need to make for the follow-up moves. If I strike to, then I have to, right? If I strike through, then I can just switch orbits and bring that next strike in. Through, not to, circles of confluence, switching orbits, and power serves.